If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please join me on my website at nanice.com. Thank you.
It's your time for Chai with Nanice. Get ready for substance, clarity, change, and especially empowerment. Get ready to turn over stones, uncover stories, and get to the heart of the matter in every area of your life. Any mood runs, any emotion flies, and your dreams are within your grasp. There are no limits or boundaries, and your comfort zone is out of reach, yet it's the safest place you will ever be. Come in, sit down, and have some chai with Nanice.
Welcome to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice. Today's show is for everyone. The topic may seem a little bit unique to many of the shows that I've done in the past, but no matter who you are, if you are listening to this, today's show is for you. We are going to be talking about sexual healing with Amrita Grace, who is an expert in the field. And she's become an expert because she has lived the journey. She will share that story with you today, and it is quite an amazing story. She is a woman of great courage and passion, and I am honored to have her on the show. You'll also discover that when we talk about sexuality today, we're not just talking about sexuality in the physical aspects and even emotional aspects as it often talked about. We're talking about it through the eyes and heart of spirituality. So wherever you are on your path, maybe today is the day you've been waiting for, because your sexuality and your spirituality are not two separate ends of the spectrum. There's a space where they join, and there's great, great power and great evolutionary possibilities in using your sexuality as a tool for awakening. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Amrita Grace. She is a certified spiritual sexual educator and an intimacy coach. She's recently published her first book entitled Reclaiming Aphrodite, The Journey to Sexual Wholeness. Amrita assists men, women, and couples in learning how to honor their bodies as sacred temples so that we may all reclaim our birthright as integrated spiritual sexual beings. She specializes in assisting people in safely releasing energies that no longer serve them and consciously creating something new, using breath, sound, and the creative life force energy that we all have access to. And I'd like to add something to that introduction. I met Amrita at Burning Man just a couple of weeks ago, and the moment that I saw Amrita, I felt an amazing vibration and energy come from her. And every time I had the opportunity to spend time with her, I felt that. I knew that she had something special to offer. One day, I was sitting in what we called the monkey hut. It was kind of like a gathering place. And she was sitting across from this beautiful woman. And I couldn't see what Amrita was doing or saying, but I could see this other woman's face. And I knew that whatever was happening was an intense spiritual healing. So afterwards, I went over to Amrita and I said, "Oh, what did you do? That was amazing." And Amrita looked at me straight in the eye and smiled, and she said, "I simply held space." Wow. Amrita, that was amazing. I was so impressed and literally blown away by that experience. I'm so glad you're on the show here today.
Yes, thank you. I am too, Nanice. I'm really thrilled. And thank you for reminding me of that beautiful moment with that gorgeous young woman who was in so much pain. And what an honor and privilege it was for me to just simply be present with her and allow her to experience her inner journey.
Yeah, it was very profound. And I understand that's a lot of what you do. I mean, I know that you have incredible techniques, and I know that you have developed just amazing, you're a facilitator of healing. But from what I see, I can see that your presence, there's something healing, just your presence is healing, and everything else is just gravy, as my Yiddish dad would have said. Would that be true?
Exactly. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. When people ask me what I do, I'm sometimes at a bit of a loss because I can name off all my certifications and the things that I do, but essentially it's about being. It's about being with someone. So I say that ultimately what I really do is I create and hold very safe, sacred, powerful space for people to do their inner work.
Yes, and I witnessed that. It's funny that you would say that, Amrita, because I've had the same dilemma. People ask me what I do, and sometimes I just stand there dumbfounded, and they're thinking, okay. And so really the most truthful answer when somebody says, what do you do? It's, I do Nanice. That's what I do. I do Nanice. Like, that's like a thing that I do. You know, of course, I am beyond that, but that's what I do. So maybe you can tell people, I do Amritas.
I do Amrita, that's right.
I do Amrita.
Exactly.
Oh, what is that? Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So you've had quite a journey.
I
had quite a journey to this space. You didn't just wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm going to be a sexual educator. I'm going to be an intimacy coach. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about that journey and, you know, some of the challenges, the triumphs, and how you got to this place now where you can assist other people in their own sexual and sensual and all that beautiful type of healing?
Yes, I would be happy to share that information.
Awesome.
As a young child, I was sexually abused between about the ages of 5 and 10. As best as I can guesstimate, it was around 9 years old, and that was by a stepfather. And my sister was also abused along with me, and my mother wasn't aware of it. So as with many abused children, we were kept in fear. You aren't to tell anyone or you could die. You know, it was this sort of life or death fear. And even after this man left our lives, I was too afraid to tell for several years. So when that truth finally came out, I was in my mid-teens, and by then I was already pretty much a mess. And at that time, that was in the 70s, and really, even once the information came forward, nobody knew what to do for me. My mother didn't know what to do. I think she was in utter shock. And nobody knew you can send your kids into therapy or get them some kind of help. So there was no help. And essentially, once I became sexually active, I began to realize that I had this power, and I began to use that sexual power to act out. And eventually, I came to understand myself as a sexual addict, or at least that's how I diagnosed myself, because I used my sexuality to get what I wanted, and I also used it to assuage this lack of self-esteem, this very low self-esteem that I had, or at least used it to attempt to assuage that. So I went on this journey into 2 marriages. And there were also quite a lot of drugs and alcohol involved in those years as well. So this whole concept of substituting addictions, there were times when I was less acting out sexually, but more into the drugs and alcohol. And so I was finding a way to bury my pain, this pain of having been abused as a child and having all of my boundaries compromised. So as I journeyed through these 2 marriages, the second one was 14 years, by the way, and was really just this, basically I summed it up as 2 very wounded children coming together and just pushing into each other's pain, trying to find a way to resolve, recreating our childhood situations over and over. And about 11 years ago, I reached the point of what I call bottoming out. And I knew that it was time to turn and face my pain. And so I diagnosed myself as a sex addict, and I began to seek help. And I really didn't feel that 12-step was resonating for me, and I really didn't, because of where I lived in a very small town in the mountains of California, there really wasn't much available to me in the way of 12-step sexual recovery, sexual addiction recovery groups. So I sought out my own alternative methods of healing, and once I turned and made that commitment, I am now going to heal myself, I was ready for transformation, and I wanted it fast as I could get my hands on it. So the very first steps I took on that healing journey were walking on hot coals, fire walking. That's where I was first led. And it was so incredibly transformational and so just amazing to walk across 1,200-degree coals and come out the other side. And I just have received this elemental healing from this fire element. And as I continued to investigate this group who was leading this firewalking and the woman, the high priestess who was leading the firewalks, I came to understand that she was a high priestess, and I really was very curious about what that was, and I wanted to know. This was a spiritual component that I was very, very curious about. So I questioned her, and I actually pestered her. I pestered her for some months. Will you please start up a group, a circle of women that I can be part of, and I can investigate this new sexuality or spirituality that is helping me heal my sexuality through this elemental connection with earth and fire. And eventually she did start that group, and it was a circle of women. And I was able to go very, very deeply into myself in the container of this circle of women. And eventually I was initiated as a priestess in this group and knew that I would go on to eventually be ordained as a high priestess so that I could carry forward this spiritual path that was so resonating for me. During these times, I also realized that I needed a very physical way to somehow move and express my sensual nature in a way that was safe and healthy. And what I was feeling drawn to was belly dancing.
Wow,
and
that's
so
cool.
I took belly dance lessons and realized, because I'm so kinesthetic and I have so much life force energy, that I need to move that energy somehow. And belly dance became a way that I could express myself in this sensual fashion that was safe and that was healthy for me. So I continued to learn to dance and eventually became a professional belly dancer, and really, really enjoyed that, and I came to understand how important it is for us to process through our bodies, process our feelings, whether they're feelings of rage and shame or whether they're feelings of extreme joy and ecstasy. If we can move our bodies with these emotions, we can really free ourselves from storing them, this stuck and stored emotional energy. And so it just became this wonderful way for me to express myself and express my sensuality. And so that helped me to get more and more healthy.
Wow.
So the firewalking, the women's circle, and the belly dancing were all the ways that I chose to heal myself, and it was a long path. I didn't get better overnight. I didn't clean up my sexual energy overnight, but eventually I did find my way to the schooling that I've been involved with for the last 4 years that has certified me as a spiritual sexual educator, and the school that is called the Divine Feminine Awakened Masculine Institute. This was sort of the icing on the cake of my beautiful healing path, where I could come into a place and receive and give sexual healing in an educational context and learn how to manage my energy, my sexual energy, all of the forms of my energy in healthy ways. And again, this was a process of several years. But by the time I came out the other end of that 2-year certification program, I felt like I really had these management tools for my sexual energy, and no longer was I throwing it at people, my sexual energy. No longer was I spilling it all over the place, unmanaged. And I felt this sense of integrity. I felt instilled with a sense of integrity, which continues to grow. This is a lifelong process.
Yes.
And what I eventually came to understand was that I am very grateful for this experience of being abused. And this may not be easy for some people to hear, but I realized that I would not be the healed person that I am now without having had that experience and the healing that I was inspired into because of it. And so I now have gratitude for every experience I've ever had, including that abuse.
Mm-hmm. That resonates with me too, Amrita. That was my experience. I didn't have childhood sexual abuse, but I was abused when I was 16, 17 years old, as many of our listeners know from listening to the show. And I, barely survived it. It was emotional, physical, sexual, every way imaginable. And, when I finally got to this place where I saw what had evolved from that, because like you, I went on the journey of healing, and it did take many years, but it was worth it. If I had never embarked on that journey, I don't think I would even be alive right now. I know that I wouldn't be alive right now. And so finally I got to the point where one day I was talking to a man, and I was sharing, the history of this abuse, and it's quite a story. And he looked at me, and with these most loving, kind eyes, and he said, "Oh, if only I knew you then, I would have protected you, and that never would have happened." And I jumped to him, and I said, "How dare you? Yeah, well, you would have taken away the best thing that ever happened to me." And, he thought I was a little crazy. I don't think I ever saw him after that. But it was by that time, that was my experience, that I understood that it is what really catapulted me on my life. If it was not for that, I'm sure I just would have gone through life, and I would have tolerated things, and, would have found some degree of happiness that never lasted. But because I was so hurt and my self-esteem was so low, and I was trying to find my way back to life, literally, that I made a commitment to myself, which I believe is the only kind of commitment that you can make. And I hear that's what you did. You made a commitment to yourself. And through that commitment, I was going to find myself, and to me, I love what you said about the integrity. So when I was going to ask you, how did you finally know when you had healed? And that's it for you. The word integrity, for me, the words that I often use are because I found myself. And truly, I think it's the same thing if you really look deep enough. I sense that there's a lot of people listening to us now, and they're thinking, well, you two, you're talking about a long process, and I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if it's worth it. I'm okay. I've got, my marriage is okay, or I got a good job. The kids everything's fine. Why should I embark on that? And I do want to, before you answer that, I do want to mention something. Most people, if not virtually all people, have something to heal. Now, it may not be in the sexual aspects, but it's more often than you think. But there's something in all of our lives. In fact, we came here to heal something. We came here to take on some emotional, spiritual, physical, energetic burden so that we can heal it. That was an agreement that we made, and when we heal it, we're not just healing it for ourselves, we're actually healing it for the planet. So it's kind of like saying, yes, I will take this energy on, I will have this experience so that I could heal it within myself, and as I heal it within myself, that energy becomes available to the rest of the planet. And I see this over and over and over again, and I believe that this is absolutely true. So when we talk about healing, just think about what it is in your own life that you believe and feel needs to be healed. And it's usually the thing that you don't really feel comfortable looking at. So having said all that, Amrita, what would you say about taking on the long journey towards healing?
Well, you actually touched on a couple of different things there that I would love to pick up the thread of before I actually answer that question. And you talked about agreements, coming in with agreements. And actually, the precursor to me being grateful for my abuse, there was a precursor to that. And I came to understand that in this overview of many lifetimes and our soul's journeys, that I came to understand that I made an agreement on a soul level with this man, this man's soul, this man who abused me, before we came into this life, and we agreed to do this together in love for each other's benefit. And that was the precursor to having the gratitude, and that's probably even more of a stretch for people to understand. But that was the truth for me, that as I got this bigger overview beyond this life, Mm-hmm. And then the second thread that I wanted to pick up was about the collective. And this idea that, I mean, there's a lot of people that say, well, I don't really need sexual healing. But the fact is that the collective needs sexual healing. There's so much shadow in the collective around sexuality that comes out in the form of pornography and pedophiles and this childhood sexual abuse
even the introversion, it's even the opposite spectrum where somebody is afraid of their sexuality, and they don't even know what to do with it because that is as much of a wound as any of the other things that we're speaking about, or the symptom of the wound, I should say.
Yeah, the symptom, exactly. And what's manifesting in the collective is what needs to be healed in every single one of us.
Yes.
That we must all take responsibility for what's in the collective. We can't say, oh, it's somebody else's problem. This is all of our responsibility to heal this. So now just to the question of what makes it worth it, as you were starting to say that, what came to mind for me was sometimes these days when I look in the mirror and I catch myself in the mirror, what I see there takes my breath away. Mm. And I used to think that I was the most ugly duckling kid, teenager. And now I'm starting to get this feedback from people. In the last year or so, I've had numerous people tell me that I'm beautiful.
And you are.
And that's taken some getting used to, Nanice, because I never heard words like that before. Even if they were said, I couldn't take them in. Yes. And, I look at my pictures, I look in the mirror, I haven't considered myself in my life to be a classic beauty by any means. However, what I see inside myself now and what I see in the mirror when I look at other people and look at them looking at me is a tremendous inner beauty and life force and vitality and joy that has all these avenues of expression out of me that I didn't have before. It was all locked up inside of me along with so much shame and guilt and rage. And now everything freely moves. If I come up against some shame, which it still happens, there's still threads of it, I'm able to go, I'm able to look at it and witness it with compassion and say, okay, well, let's see what that's about. Let's love this little piece of shame. This is part of me. Let's embrace it and integrate it. And so what I feel is that it gets easier and easier. And as my being gets lighter and lighter and my frequency goes higher and higher, the things that used to be huge burdens and problems and issues become opportunities for growth. Yes. Beautiful opportunities that I celebrate.
Yes. Yes. So what I'm hearing you say is that the path is worth it because you get to discover your beauty, your magnificence, your power, your passion, and as in the case of you and even in the case of me, our purpose in the world. And that really is true, isn't it? Yes. Yes.
Oh, yes. I mean, to know I'm a being who knows what I'm here for, who is very, very clear my life's purpose. I'm 46 years old, and I know what I'm here for, and I'm very clear and focused and directed in that purpose. And I don't think there's a lot of people that can really say that, and I'm so grateful. It's like it's half the journey is knowing, so that then you can invest your passion and your energy into that path, and just there's just so much satisfaction in knowing why I'm here.
Yes. For me too. It changes everything, doesn't it?
It does.
It does. Yeah. Yes. And the other thing that I want to add is that to our listeners, it doesn't have to be that long of a journey now, because there are people like Amrita and me and other people who have already walked that journey, and because of that, it becomes easier. We create a whole new path. We develop new tools. there's somebody to follow. There's a light at the end of a tunnel that was once completely dark, and I know that's how I felt for a very long time, and I'm going to guess that's how you also felt. Amrita, is that not true?
Well, if there had been somebody like me to help me when I first started on my healing journey, it would have been much, much shorter. And I didn't even know where to begin to look, or that there may have even been anyone available. Certainly not as widespread as it is now. And yes, absolutely. Had I known then what I know now, and about these so many new paradigm tools that are becoming available to all of us, that are meant to be shared with everyone, it doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be painful, but we do need to be willing to address our shadow, address these repressed emotions that we've been hanging on to so tightly. And there are some wonderful methods for doing that, and I've actually been taking methods that I've learned and refining them down to a really pretty simple process for accessing and moving these energies through our body in the same way that I learned to do with dance. And
is there anything that you can share regarding that our listeners can do at home? And I would love it if you did that. That would be awesome.
Yes, I absolutely love sharing this particular tool, this technique that I call rapid accessing. And this technique is rooted in Gestalt therapy. And it's come to me through some other teachers, and I've refined it into something that I found really works for me, because I already know that I'm very kinesthetic and that I need to move my body. So this technique is called rapid accessing, and it's a way of quickly getting access to emotions, powerful emotions, and it's most effective when used as soon as you're feeling those emotions. And, when we first start feeling something, usually it's because something's happened to us, and there's this tendency to be in a victim place. Even those of us who consider ourselves to be fairly evolved along our paths, we still are human, and we still find that victim place from time to time. And I love that victim place to use it to access emotions, because what I learned through this process is that I talk myself out of victim pretty quickly. I reach for the better feeling emotions, and I get myself out of that victim place. I talk myself out of it very quickly. Yet I found a way to make use of that victim place through the rapid accessing technique, because when I want those powerful emotions, victim is the perfect way to get them. And then I can use several different methods of moving my body. One of my favorite ones is having a temper tantrum. Now, this is in an environment where we're not going to hurt ourselves or hurt anyone or hurt the surroundings, and perhaps we have someone who's agreed to hold space for us in a neutral way. And all the things that we've ever stopped ourselves from doing, like as kids, we were probably never really allowed to go through with those tantrums. But if we're feeling in that tantrum mood, we can get on the bed and we can lay on our back and we can kick and we can pound our fists and we can make some noise. Oh, making noise is really important in this process to move our energy with sounding, and open the fifth chakra, which is usually so tightly closed on most of us. And even if we're in a place where we can, do some yelling and or put a pillow over us, and without really using that as a way to suppress it, we scream into the pillow, let the pillow take it. And this is such an effective way to shift our energy and move this stuff out. So this technique called rapid accessing, I have a handout that I'm happy to share with anyone who's interested in it. And so for the people who are listening, this is available on my website, which is amritagrace.com, and it's AMRITAGRACE.com. And if you scroll down on the left to articles, the second article is rapid accessing, and you can download this one-page Word doc, and you can try this tool out for yourself. And I consider this one of the new paradigm tools, not one that I created, but one that I refined from others. And if it works for you, fantastic. If it doesn't, just tweak it a little bit so that it does. But I encourage you to give it a try right when you're feeling it, right when you're feeling strong emotions. And maybe that emotion is joy, and you just don't know what to do with it. That's when I say, put on the music and dance. Dance out your joy, but move it through your body in some way, and you will be amazed at how the energy will shift, not just in you, but all around you when you use tools like this.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure
pleasure.
that's going to help a lot of people. And I love what you say about processing feelings through the body. That's something we were never taught when we were younger. At least I wasn't, that our feelings are actually in the body. And when I started doing my own healing and then eventually started working with other people, that was one of the first things that I began to notice, that we actually do store our emotions in our body. And if we don't, something, and so when we do have upsets during our lives or feelings do come up, really what that is an opportunity to release those stored feelings. But we're taught to push them down, and every time we push them down, it's creating more and more and more stored feelings. And I believe that this is the reason for all disease, ill health, and even injuries. And if we have the ability and courage and tools like the ones that you're offering now, we can use feelings that come up as opportunities to release old wounds, and that's really the purpose of it. We're supposed to release these old wounds, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, I'm just afraid that it will hurt too much, or what if I get so angry and I can't, hold it in and I do something, or, my heart's going to break and all these things. And my response to that, and I'd love to hear what your response is too, but my response to that is that needs to happen. The anger needs to be processed. The grief needs to be processed. And as far as the heart goes, the heart's meant to break. That's what it's meant to do, because as it breaks, it opens up and it reveals an even greater capacity to love and be loved. And the funny thing is, and I had a conversation with somebody today about this, that the most painful part is just holding it down. That is the most painful part, just pushing the emotions down. And then if you finally do just release it and you allow it to be processed through you without telling a story about it, that certainly helps. No storytelling. What you find is freedom on the other side. So the true pain is before the release. Yeah. Isn't that something?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I completely agree with you in that holding all this stuff in is the cause of disease and accidents. It's like this is the universe trying to get our attention, trying to get that spirit part inside of ourselves, trying to get our attention. You need to wake up. Yes. You need to wake up. And the more you wake up, you realize there's no going back. As you clear the pain from your body, there might be some momentary discomfort, I would say would be the word, some discomfort, or maybe even some pain with it. But once you release that little piece, it's gone forever.
Yes.
And it will never bother you again.
Yes.
So it's very, very worthwhile. And it takes so much energy to contain and hold this stuff pressed down inside of us. So to be able to move it out, it's what I call emptying the chalice. And when we empty the container of ourselves, we create spaciousness. And into that spaciousness, we have an opportunity to consciously invite what we want. This is the co-creative manifestation process. When we discover what it is that we want, and sometimes that's through seeing what we don't want, in that contrast, then we have this opportunity to invite in, oh, this is how I'd like to feel now. And when we have the emptiness there, there's truly an opportunity to invite in what we want.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to go back and talk a little bit more about this concept of making agreements. And there's a story. Are you familiar with the story by Neil Donald Walsh? And it is the little soul in the sun. Do you know that story, Amrita?
No, I'm not familiar with that. I'm not familiar with that story.
So I'm gonna share it with you. I've shared this on a show before.
Okay.
And so for those who have heard it before, you get to hear it again. So it's this little boy's soul, and I don't really know if souls are little boys or little girls, but for the sake of the story, there's a little boy's soul, and he's up in heaven or wherever little boys' souls live, and he goes to God one day, and he says, God, I want to learn about everything. And God says, well, little soul, that is a wonderful thing. What would you like to learn about first? And the little boy's soul says, I would love to learn about forgiveness. And God says, that is a great thing to learn about. But in order to learn about forgiveness, you are going to need someone to forgive. Well, the little boy soul got very sad and said to God, "But I don't have anybody to forgive." Well, just then, a little girl soul popped into the picture, and she said, "I can help you." And the little boy soul said, "You can? How can you do that?" And the little girl soul said, "Well, you see that planet down there called Earth? We can both go down there and forget that we know each other, and one day we'll meet, and I will do something so terrible to you so that you can forgive me and learn about forgiveness." And the little boy soul said to the little girl soul, "You would do that for me? Why would you do such a beautiful and amazing thing for me?" And she looked at him and she said, "Because I love you."
I love you. I knew the ending.
Of course you did.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, my gosh. That brought tears to my eyes and tingles all the way down my body. Yes. I get it. I understand it, and that's exactly what I was alluding to earlier. Thank you for sharing that beautiful story that so clearly illustrates. Yeah. Yes. And so
I believe that everything's done. I'm sorry. I believe that everything is done out of love. That it's impossible not to be transferring love. And I know this is a concept that is, something that we're just moving into as a collective consciousness. But I truly believe this, and I'll give it a personal example. So. Recently, my oldest son, Dustin, he's 28, and he and I have just been having some challenges getting along. And I was speaking to a dear friend and talking about these challenges because we've never really had challenges before. I mean, we got through his teenage years just fine, and here we are, and he's going through some changes, I'm going through some changes, and we have some challenges, and I became very frustrated with that. So my dear friend looked at me and said, "Every time he seems angry at you, every time he says something you don't like, what he's really saying is, Mom, I just want to be with you. I just want to love you." And when she said this to me, I totally got it. I mean, my entire paradigm of the situation reorganized itself, and understanding that it was just love coming through. Whoa, I changed everything. And because of that, the relationship changed. And that reminds me, I have this video on my website. I'd love to take credit for it because I love it so much, but it's actually from something that I found on, I believe it's YouTube. And it is about, it's called the New Day, I believe, A New Day. And if you go to my website at nanice.com, it's NANICE.com, and click on articles and scroll all the way down. I know it's a huge list. I have tons and tons of free articles there, but scroll all the way down, and it's the last one, and just click on it, and then you'll come to another page and click on it again, and it will play this, I think it's about a 10-minute video. And what the video is about is how we just are sharing love with each other, and it will change your life. I just go back and just watch it every so often because I love it. So I invite you all to do that. Yeah.
Would you say the name of it again?
I believe it's a new day.
A new day. Okay.
Yeah, but just go to my website, nanice.com, go to articles, and then articles shows it more, scroll all the way down, and it's at the bottom there. Yeah, it's the link to it, and you can access it right away. It's amazing. I make my children watch it too, so yeah.
That sounds very inspirational, and I love inspirational material. I think it's really, really helpful to those of us on a healing path. Yes. It's really about finding the extreme positive in every situation and just reaching for the more positive, the more positive. And as we come into this joyfulness and passion in our lives, then that's what we're creating more of in the future. Absolutely.
I believe that we're changing the world, and we change the world by changing ourselves, and we change ourselves by working through all those areas that just are out of balance or don't feel right, or there's pain or there's hurt, simply by moving through those experiences from the past and let them process through our body. We change ourselves, we change the world. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, I think the only way we can change the world is by changing ourselves. Honestly,
absolutely.
We can't change anyone or anything else, and that's been one of my precepts, is that the only way to heal the planet is to heal ourselves.
Right.
So it's good to be selfish.
Yes, it really is. That's the only way. That is the only way. There's a lot of people out there, and I was guilty of this myself, so I can say this, that we want to be of service. We want to be altruistic. And so for years, I put myself last, and I just said, okay, I want to help the world. I want to help people. And the interesting thing that I quickly found out, and quickly as years, I should mention, is that because I wasn't healed and whole myself, I became useless because I kept depleting myself. I was giving from an empty void, and in fact, there was my needs attached to that. So I was helping other people. I was helping out in the world, but I still needed a need and that met, and that was a need for maybe appreciation or acceptance or love or whatever. And once I got that wasn't working. And really, the only reason I got it is because I became literally exhausted, and I said, I can't do this. I thought that I had to give up my vision and my purpose and my path. But what ended up happening is I turned that within and just totally focused on myself, became totally full of myself. And once I was completely full, I had so much overflowing to me that overflow automatically went to other people. And so now, whenever I help anybody, no matter what, it's always the overflow. And people say to me, don't you ever get tired? You're always helping people, and you're always, and giving. And the answer is no, I don't get tired because I take care of myself first. I'm full, and all you're seeing is the overflow extending to others. And in fact, if I don't share the overflow, what am I going to do with it,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd love to just say a few words about my book. I'm so proud of it.
Sure, please.
And I just released it just right after Burning Man. I released it on 9/9/09, and this is my first book. It was a 6-year project, and it was very much guided by Spirit. I was told, you have a book to write, and you must write it, and this is what it's about. It's called Reclaiming Aphrodite, The Journey to Sexual Wholeness, and this is really quite a lot about my own journey through healing, but also what I really wanted to do was to be able to help other people with it who are on any kind of a healing path. So in part of it, I share some really powerful, magical personal stories. And in part of it, I give some guidance and exercises around fairly simple introductory exercises for anyone's healing path. And it's based on a journey through the chakra system. So it starts with the base chakra and the qualities and shadow of the base chakra, and works its way up to the crown chakra and the divine aspects of ourself. And I'm just so excited to really, I just sort of poured my guts all over these pages in an incredibly vulnerable revealing of myself and my path, and it feels so good because I hid myself and all that I was in total secrecy for so many years, that to be able to say, this is me with all my shadow and all my light, and I hope that, even if it helps just one other person, it's so worthwhile to me, and I'm so pleased to offer this as my gift of love to the planet.
And how can they get your book? Is it on your website for sale? Is it on Amazon?
On my website.
Awesome.
It's on my website so far. That's the only place it can be gotten. And so it's amritagrace.com, AMRITAGRACE.com. It's right on there's a link to it right on the home page. And there's quite a bit more information there, too. I'm getting ready to offer my first weekend workshop this weekend in St. Paul, Minnesota. Although I normally live in Maui, Hawaii, I've been guided to take my work out to the mainland where it's much more needed, rather than being sort of surrounded by lots of other healers doing similar work. It's to take it to the places where this work is not so common. So I'm teaching a workshop in St. Paul this weekend, assisted by my partner, Apollo, and we're teaching Reclaiming Our Sexual Wholeness. So this is kind of a big step for this upper Midwest area, and I'm thinking maybe next time it might be better to leave sexual out of the title. That might be a little scary for people here, but I'm having a pretty good response to it.
Awesome. And is there still room in the workshop if any of our listeners want to fly in and take the workshop this weekend?
There is. I probably have room for maybe 5 or 6 more people, and
awesome.
I would absolutely love to invite anyone who feels drawn to contact me and And if not for the workshop, then possibly private healing work. I'm so very happy to work with men, women, and couples. I specialize in working with people with abuse and trauma issues, but I work with people who want to do any kind of work with integrating their sexuality into their whole being. That's really what it's all about, is not keeping it compartmentalized and fragmented, but this concept of reclaiming and integrating sexuality into a healthy whole being.
Yes, yes. And I have to say, Amrita, I began your book last week, and I just intended just to look through it at first because I wanted to get an idea of it, and and I couldn't put it down. It was so compelling. The way that it's written is phenomenal. And as I mentioned before, I'm a publisher. I have a publishing company. So, this is a professional opinion, and it's absolutely an amazing book. The way that you have included your own personal stories in relation to each of the chapters really brings things home. And it is filled with so much openness, honesty, vulnerability, truth, and healing that it is a phenomenal journey. And it's an experience. It's more than a book. So when somebody gets your book, they're not just reading it. They're actually, doing the exercises, and they're going on a journey of healing. And that is just phenomenal. So thank you for putting that out into the world.
It's also intended to be you're welcome, and I'm deeply honored and humbled by your words. And also I think you really got one of the pieces is this is intended to be a transmission of energy. Of healing energy from source through me. And so it's really like being in a healing session with me reading my book. Wow. And that was the intention around it, and I get that you get that.
Will you be putting it on tape, on audio at all at any time in the future?
I hadn't considered that, but I think that's a wonderful idea, and I will make a note of that and take that very much under consideration. This whole book writing, publishing thing is very new to me. So
well, you're doing awesome.
I've been taking it a bit slow. Thank you. I actually did it all myself. I did the cover design. I did the formatting. I wore all the hats with this book. And while it's not maybe perfect, it's human, just like me.
Yes. Yes, as we all are. Well, thank you so much, Amrita. This was an amazing show. I know you've helped a lot of people, and I hope to have you on the show again one day soon.
I would love that, Nanice, and it's been such an incredible pleasure. Thank you for making my very first radio interview so amazing.
You did great. Thank you so much. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you.
Take care. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, as Amrita so brilliantly shared during our show today, there's a process that we all go through in life, and no matter where you are, there's something inside of you that's asking to come to the surface. And although we call this healing, it's so much more than healing. It's wholeness, it's integration, it's discovering who you really are. It's interesting because years ago, I used to believe that if someone had the perfect childhood, that they would just be a healthy, whole adult. Well, one day I was sitting in the sauna at the gym, and this man walked in, and we started getting into conversation. He knew that I was a life coach and started sharing his story with me. Well, his story was a very interesting one because he did have that perfect childhood. He said that he grew up in a very well-to-do family. His mother stayed at home and took great care of him. His father had a great job. His parents had a great relationship. They were so attentive. If he ever had a problem, they were there for him. He had no complaints about his childhood. Well, as he grew up and he went off on his own and off to college, he soon realized that he also didn't have the skills that he needed to make it through life. Because his parents were always there, because everything was always there for him, because his parents helped him through any challenge and always supported him in any way possible, he discovered himself to be an adult who didn't have the skills and know-how to make it through his own challenges. So at the age of 40-something, when I finally did meet him that day in the sauna, what he shared with me was a lifetime up to that point where he did not have a full life, where he felt something was missing, where he was never able to get married or have the job or career or profession or purpose that his heart dreamed of, because he didn't have the skills. And in that moment, I got it. That it's not about what happens to us in life. It's not about whether we have a perfect childhood or we've been abused or, something in between. It's about the choices we make in life. The choices to discover, uncover, heal, if you will, those things that are asking to be healed, those things that are asking to come to the surface. And in that choice, we change our lives. And in changing our lives, we discover who we are. And in discovering who we are, it's inevitable that we discover why we're here. And one thing simply flows into the next. And so, on your journey, no matter where you are on your path, the greatest gift that you can give to yourself is allowing those things that are yet to be healed to surface, and allowing them to process through you. And I'll tell you, one thing that I've noticed is years ago, it took a long time to heal things, but the energies on this planet have changed. And because of that, those same things that might have took many, many years or even decades to heal can be healed very quickly now. All it takes is a willingness to allow those energies to surface. And without telling a story, just let them move through you. Just observe and let them move through you. And before you know it, you'll find that there's emotional freedom. There's life freedom. There's freedom for you to live your life the way you've always wanted to on the other end. And you'll find out that even though it did seem dark for a while and maybe you didn't see that light, that not only is there light at the end of the tunnel, but there's light inside you. Please visit me on my website at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. I have so much free stuff you can't even believe it. It's like Christmas on my website. There's free articles, there's free song downloads, there's a free book download, there's information about all kinds of stuff. And the website is designed to assist you in your awakening. So let me know how you are. Questions, comments, anything you'd like to share, just email me. You can email me right from the website. So, until next week. Oh, and by the way, next week, don't miss next week's show. David Icke, it's a pre-recorded show, so I can already tell you it is an awesome, awesome show, and it will shift the way you think about this world. So don't miss next week's show. That's on the 28th, September 28th. So, until then, you have been listening to Chai with Nanice. I'm Nanice. Have a great week.
Thank you for having Chai with Nanice. Please go to www.nanice.com for great free stuff that will empower you to live your best possible life. Free books, articles, shows, meditation audios, and so much more at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. Nanice's books are also available in all major bookstores and Amazon. Check out The Infinite Power of You, Even Gandhi Got Hungry and Buddha Got Mad, Zest Point, Lip Prints, and many others by Nanice Ellis. To find out about one-on-one coaching and how Nanice can personally coach you to experience your best life possible, please email mybestlife@nanice.com.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And please join me on my website at nanice.com. That's NANICE.com. Thank you.